You see above, it narrates a battle between two ages of beliefs. One of them is the angels, and another is our traditional beliefs, which is the gods. In simple terms, a child growing up might get to see our gods and our spiritual beliefs as diabolical, whereas a grandmother might look at it just as culture. It shows that over time, in the years that we've lived, and how time has passed, we're beginning to realize that our culture has slowly been eroded to be the backbone, and we've embraced foreign religions, foreign spiritual ethics, and called it ours. Basically, one of our most distinctive and powerful attributes is our spiritual beliefs. We're also storytellers, and it's within the spiritual beliefs that we find the core of our system. Returning to Africa, or the year of return, goes beyond a physical location. It's your state of mind, it's your state of heart, and it's your state of spirit. The comic you're looking above is a comic called Spirit Wars. It's the biggest crossover event comic book in our universe. Vortex has published over 60 comic books in the past 3 years, and we've made a series of animated short films. And in every single story that we're telling, we try to embrace our culture in the most innate way, not just in the surface way. Growing up, one of the things that irked me the most was not the fact that these superheroes didn't look like us, but the fact that these superheroes didn't just live the life that I was living. Didn't see the things that I was seeing every day. There were no masquerade festivals. There was no dibia. There was no person with feathers around his body and shaking cowries. All the things I saw in Nollywood films never reflected in the DC and Batman comics. And that bothered me. So I would say that Africa doesn't have a lack of narrative in terms of the stories being told, but the problem is the direction on which our stories are being told. Many a time we're forced to conform to what the white man's standards are, what the foreign standards are, what the imposed standards are. And colonialism has gone beyond even being something that was taken away from us in terms of our art or in terms of our displacement, but colonialism has gone has encreeped so much into our society that you don't even need to leave the continent to be colonized. You know, starting my company in 2015 to 2018, my mom thought I was crazy because I studied economics. I had an economics background. And she's like, you're gonna start making comic books and cartoons. How are you gonna like fend for yourself? You know, like nobody makes comic books and cartoons that makes any money. And I'm like, yo, I have something to tell. I have a story to tell. I wanna tell these stories. I wanna break out from the cycle. I feel like I'm not gonna be able to tell that narrative using matrices and econometrics and numbers and tables. And even if someone can, that's not me. And so the first theme we started with was Rolihlahla, which was the middle name of Mandela, which actually means to pull the branch of a tree, but colloquially means troublemaker. So in that phase of mind, it was a form of rebellion, obviously. I was in a phase of mind where I needed to pull the branch of a tree for the fruits to fall down. You know when you see a mango tree and it's ripe, you're not gonna speak to the mango even if it's yellow, that please drop and it's gonna drop. It doesn't work that way. You gotta pull it. You know, you gotta cause some trouble. You gotta upset the tree. And that's how we got it. And between 2015 to 2018, those were like the deepest struggles of my life, you know? But it turned into a mental struggle and a spiritual journey. And that's when we arrived at Kungana in 2019, the beginning of this year. And Kungana is a Swahili word that means togetherness. And the only true way that we can actually come together to achieve our journey to the land of gods, where we are right now, is by doing it together. And that was a massive resolution at the point in time when we began to start this journey to exporting African culture. Our first comic book we ever made was called Momo Juju. It was very tough because it was a book for kids. And the moment, we will be at Comic Cons, and the moment, local Comic Cons, Lagos Comic Con, and then there was a book festival they had in Accra. We used to come out here. And the moment they see Juju, they're like, nah, my kid can't read this. But the mesh of it was Mumu, Juju. We had to make a lightness out of our black magic. We had to make it an educational system to know their gods. Now, if I ask people how many people here know Zeus and Poseidon and the rest of them, y'all gonna raise your hands. It's okay for a black kid to watch Harry Potter, but it's not okay for a black kid to say, oh, I want to be like Shango, I want to carry the axe. It becomes, no, this child needs a spiritual intervention. Like right now, where's the pastor? But yet, our pastors are blowing breeze and everybody's falling down. But that's not creepy. It's not. What is creepy is the fact that my child once actually personifies and idolizes a black man that was once like him and did phenomenal things while walking on earth. We need to acknowledge our history. We need to accept our mythology as part of our history. We need to accept our spirituality outside Christianity or Islam as part of our culture. We need to practice it, even if it's not in the most active way, but in terms of going for festivals. The New Yam Festival, you need to go for that. The festival in Kweu, we need to go for that, and not just for the paragliding, for like the festivities in it, the actual festivals, following them as they carry the calabash from city to city, from town to town. Understanding why they do these things, makes our spirituality and our culture remarkable, excellent, and the way forward. It keeps us grounded, it keeps us connected, and it keeps our mental resolve in one place. Our individuality and our singularity in our spiritual beliefs is our development. And the moment that we can realize that and bring those two together, we've taken a step to the land of God. We created a new terminology when we started making our comic books, and we called it spirit fiction. African stories driven by mythology, culture, and traditional spirituality / philosophy. With this, we were able to research and go deep into diverse cultures, from the Dongon tribe in Mali and how they discovered astrology before any technology discovered astrology. Astrology is so deep and so vast that King Khufu, Pharaoh Khufu of the Egyptian Empire, who literally designed the pyramids in Giza, which were one of the first pyramids ever, would go and war against the tribes of Mali just to get the information on the astrology. And then when he finally attained that astrology, you will find out that that was the age of enlightenment. Medicine, mathematics, geometry, everything advanced. To tomorrow, they can build structures like the pyramids. It was so deep and so in-depth that if you ask a basic American where the Egyptians got their knowledge from, they're going to tell you it was aliens. Your only understanding is by coming in tune with nature. And that's what makes African spirituality so powerful. The fact that it's in line with nature. When they look for healing, they go to trees. When they look for food, they kill the animals with respect. That is the power of African spirituality. It respects the earth, it respects the sky, it respects everything around us. Not trying to be a pastor right here. The spirit realm, an alternate world where the major events of the spirit universe occur. It coexists parallel to today's reality on earth. Majority of the stories that went on in our universe had to deal with things that I heard when I was growing up. I'm from Nigeria, so a lot of things I might say might not be relatable, but we had Madam Koi Koi, we had Cliff Odoji, we had the Abiku, and so many other stories. I wanted to bring these stories to life. I wanted kids to grow up not looking at themselves like they needed to wear tights and a red cape and wear a Batman cowl on top of their head for them to feel like superheroes. I wanted them to understand that their spirituality alone already made them superheroes. And if they got a deeper understanding of that, they could rise, they could soar. And that was what led us to our 60 comic books that we published over the past 3 years. Those are a few more of our projects that we worked on over time. The two titles that you're looking at right above you are two projects that got featured on Comic Book Resources as top 15 most influential black characters in the world. When this happened to us, we realized that what we were doing was beyond us just writing stories under a table in the studio, hiding and just creating. We realized that what we were doing was setting the pace for an entire generation. We were lighting the candle and putting up beacons for generations behind us that would actually begin to take pride in their culture, that would actually begin to speak about their culture wherever they may be in the diaspora, and that actually changed the narrative for us in terms of how far we could go with storytelling and the entire narrative. So getting a large following, a key thing that we had to do was begin to switch it to language. Language is one of the biggest barriers that we have. How can a child somewhere in a remote area in the west of Africa have a big breakthrough in science if he has to learn English first? There is already a large hurdle ahead of him. If I had to learn English before I discovered how to make a biological experiment work, it makes it 10 times more difficult. The planet around us is designed to give us everything that we need. Our language is our power. Our language is our truth. How many children today in the new millennials, grow up in a home where local languages are being spoken to them? It deteriorates every day. It's a dying culture. We need to understand the importance of our language, how to transcend our language into our benefits, and how to use that as a wave to cross over into the land of God. So that's one thing we started infusing in our comic books. Local languages, Pidgin English. A lot of our readers, unfortunately, which were international, because they got drawn into comics faster than our people could, slowly began to even embrace it. Because we'll put glossaries at the back where we get to explain what these words were. And that kind of opened up into a whole new pride. We need to take pride in our language. And until we take pride in our language and put it at the forefront of our education, we're still going to be behind in the development of the new world. If you look at countries and civilizations like the Japanese, the Chinese, the reason why they can create their own island, they can create their own oasis, and then dive within their oasis and create all kinds of growth and shun their back to the world. They have their own Google, they have their own Twitter, and then the confidence that they have to have their own and create their own and neglect that of the world, which is the West, is from the power of their language. From a 5-year-old kid is learning Mandarin and doing abacus like he's a wizard. But in our generation, our children, if even grown up in the village, for example, need to go back to learn English. From learning English, they learn how to dress English. Then they aspire to school abroad. And that's where we lose it. Half of the people that we call diaspora in the past 10 to 15 years have come from aspiring to be there. The new colonialism doesn't even require us to be put on a ship anymore. We want to be colonized. Hi, my name is Somto. I want to be colonized. Literally, that's how it is. Your parents encourage you to be colonized. Let's eat spaghetti. Let's have cake. Let's do ice cream. Let's do burritos. I'm like, but what? You walk around and then it gets terribly more difficult to find a standard restaurant. In fact, the best restaurants that you'll see selling African food are on the corner side, on the streets. That already shows us where we are. We need to step into the land of gods, and we need to stop colonizing ourselves, because that's the biggest system. That's the biggest trap. Over the past 4 years, we're moving into our 5th year, next year. We've amassed over 30,000 subscribers from across the globe. And the reason why I mentioned these numbers to you is because if the world can look at the Black Panther and decide that we're going to make millions of dollars from the Black Panther, it only tells me one thing. African culture is commercial. It's commercial as, for the TEDx sake, it is commercial in the most commercial way possible. The biggest lie that they tell us, one of the biggest lies that they tell us is the international acceptable content. As a content creator, as a movie maker, the moment you're trying to break out into the world, the first thing that they begin to tell you is that, is it international compliant? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you shooting it like this? Is it recorded this way? That is the lie of the international market, to have you tell a narrative that is mundane, that is repetitive, that is controlled, and that is a lie. It's the biggest lie. All cultures are commercial. How many of you here watch anime? Yeah. Now, anime makes trillions of dollars. Maybe not trillions, that's a huge exaggeration, because that on a whole new level would be an Apple. But it's not Apple. But anime makes millions of dollars annually. We look at titles like Naruto, we look at titles like Dragon Ball Z, they've defined our world. They've controlled the universe of animation. In fact, the animation industry moved from being in the Disney from the 30s all the way down into the 2000s, and then in the age of the 2000s, it's now anime. When you look at Netflix, the bulk of their animation content is anime, and they don't speak English in anime. All cultures are commercial. Africa is commercial as heck. The year of the return. I was poised to do an artwork for the year of the return. You would see the floating creature who is called Ori with his staff above. He's in full regalia of an African attire. He represents an African that has truly embraced his spirituality. He's floating. The multitude that you can see coming from the African map represents the return. We need to understand that the return goes deeper than the location. What are you embracing? What are you taking back home? Coming back to experience the culture, to experience a bit of Afro Nation over there, a little bit of Afrochella, maybe eat a little bit of Booker food on the side. That's not returning. Returning is understanding your purpose as an African child, as African descent, as African origin. It's taking pride in your culture. It's taking pride in your spirituality. It's not the color of your skin. Drake is black. You know? It's not the color of your skin. The biggest lie that they tell you is restricting you to the color of your skin. No longer, the moment that you step into a place and you have the mentality that I am black, you have failed. You are human, but you are African. And that's not your location, it's who you are inside. And that's how it's always going to be. And any other narrative is a lie. We need to understand that. The comic book that we have called The Land of God speaks about a little girl called Keshia, born in New York, her father Nigerian, her mother American. She comes back into Nigeria on a holiday to see her grandmother and discovers a mirror called the Ejikiri. On seeing this mirror, she plays around with it a little bit, and then when putting her hand through it, finds out that her hand passes just right through the mirror. She's curious. She's 13 years old. She doesn't know what to do. So she runs through the mirror, and she gets trapped in this land of gods. Let's get trapped in the land of gods. You know, in this land of gods, she realizes that the deities are at war, and a lot of things are going askew. And she's been prophesied to have come back, that the half-born child, half God, half man, full African, is going to discover that mirror and walk through it and stop the land of gods from impending doom. Every single return is a solution. Every single return is change. Every single return is advancement. Don't take that opportunity or that decision as a holiday. It's purpose. And we need to achieve that purpose. We need to discover the land of gods. A lot of us will come back to Africa, but we would not find the land of gods. We need to find the land of gods. It's not black magic. Black magic is a white man's term for what they do. We've never called it black magic. They came into our country, they saw all the wonders, and they called it black magic. Maybe because we were black and it's magic. So if that's the definition you want to take, that's the only definition you should take and the way you should see it when you think of black magic. My name is Somto Adjuluchukwu, representing Vortex Corp, and I'm so proud and grateful to be here. Thank you so very much. Appreciate you all.